client before who was a person on a boat, a seaman, fleeing persecution in Burma, and had a number of communications through an intermediary. And he was asking, where should I go to claim asylum? And I said, well, does the boat dock in New Zealand or somewhere else? But Hong Kong certainly would not be first choice. I would want to go to Canada. A few years ago, I had a case of a person from Sri Lanka, a young Tamil man. He, peaceful guy, didn't want to get involved in the conflict, did not want to get recruited by the LTTE, the Tamil militant organization, but for the fact of being a Tamil male was also a target of persecution by the government in Sri Lanka. So he's caught in between. He gets to Hong Kong and claims asylum here. I get a call through somebody else who says this person is very scared because Hong Kong wants to force him back to Sri Lanka. He has a deportation order against him and they're going to send him back to Sri Lanka. He was rejected refugee status after a half-an-hour interview with the UNHCR. And as Sarah mentioned, the UNHCR try their best with limited resources to try to assess these cases, but they're just not, they don't have the resources to properly do it. We think there's some procedural problems the way they do it, and for whatever reason this guy was found not to be a refugee. So he was on his way out. We intervened and tried to do some creative thinking and used the Torture Convention, which Hong Kong is a signatory to, and to prevent him being deported back to Sri Lanka. Okay? We gave just a small detail of, I think, the importance of public pressures. We gave the chief executive about 1 week to remove the deportation order against this gentleman, and otherwise we were going to take the case to court, the basic international law arguments to prevent his removal to Sri Lanka. And only on that occasion, I think, which was the third attempt, the UNHCR did intervene and grant the person refugee status. So to this day, we're still suspicious as to why they eventually changed their mind. I have a view that it wouldn't have looked very good that a person who has torture marks on his body, was found on 3 occasions not to be a refugee, and only when we put the pressure on and the pressure of the courts was he found to be a refugee. And that wasn't the end of the matter. That would have been the end of the matter as far as the litigation goes, and it would have been actually a sad time for Hong Kong because the case would have ended there. After he became a refugee, we asked the Hong Kong government to get rid of the deportation order, and they still did not rescind the deportation order. So while this gentleman was safe, the UNHCR found him to be a refugee, Hong Kong maintained that he should maintain the deportation order. So a technical deportation order was maintained, and we eventually took that decision not to rescind the deportation order all the way to the Court of Final Appeal, and we were successful. So the result of that is that now Hong Kong must screen people if they say they face torture, if they're going to be returned to torture. And presently there's over 700 people claiming under the Torture Convention, and Hong Kong recently said they have to hire 77 more immigration officers and spend 31.5 million Hong Kong on assessing whether people are going to face torture or not. So while we don't have the refugee convention, and we don't have an assessment process which we would like to get under that process. That's still done by the UNHCR with its limited resources. People are going through this alternative procedure, and one of the big problems with that, as Sarah mentioned, is the delay. And legally, it's a difficult thing to get at. We've got some who have started the torture claim procedure who are starting their 4th year, waiting for final decisions. I think of this, there's over 700 of these claimants. Only 13 are even in the later stages of either been given a first refusal or they're in the appeal stages. So this is how slow it is, and you can imagine